Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Why did Republicans storm it? Here's one possible answer from our NBC News First Read team, because the GOP is running on empty. Our political unit, Chuck Todd, Mark Murray, Carrie Dan, writing, if you want to know why House Republicans decided Wednesday to disrupt a deposition into the impeachment inquiry, it's probably because President Trump and the GOP are running out of defenses. Here's Congresswoman Jackie Speier.
What happened yesterday was a high school prank by a bunch of 50-year-old white men. The Republicans are whining because the president is whining, and frankly, I think they did what they did yesterday because the president was whining that they weren't fighting for him hard enough.
But the president liked the whole thing. Watch this.
I think this showed full support for the president. He was happy to see it happen. He was very supportive of it, as he should be.
The Republican who led that charge is joining me now, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. He sits on the Judiciary and Armed Services Committees and is joining us now from Florida. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Hallie. My IFB wasn't really clear. Did Jackie Speier identify my race and my gender in the context of my activities as a member of Congress yesterday?
I think you heard her soundbite. I want to give you the chance to respond. Go ahead.
Well, no. Did she say it was that we were a bunch of white men? What does the fact that we are white men have to do with our desire to represent the millions of constituents that we serve? I mean, I was deeply offended by that. Like, when Jackie Speier walks in a room, I don't sit there and say, you know, a white woman came in, or when someone of a different race or ethnicity comes in. This is the type of identity politics from the left that seems to permeate any substantive or procedural argument that they make. And it's sickening to me that that is how we would be thought of. The people we serve are diverse, and it's really kind of sickening.
Let me talk about the substantive piece of it then, because there are two pieces of this, right? And by the way, Congressman, I want to talk to you about Turkey and Syria, so I'm going to ask you to leave me some time for that in this discussion. But I want to start
Why
with
don't we start with that? What are your thoughts on Turkey and Syria?
We started on this conversation on the idea that Republicans walked into this secure area of the Capitol yesterday, including some Republicans who could have just gone in and participated as members of those committees as the rules allowed. So what was the point of this? Was this really anything more than a stunt?
The point was to highlight the true due process inequities that are damaging the Congress and damaging the institution of the presidency. I don't think Democrats have answered the question yet. Why is Donald Trump getting less due process than President Clinton got or than Richard Nixon got? So that was our objective. I'm on the Judiciary Committee.
But what do you mean by that? Because some of the members of Congress...
But we're showing a picture, Congressman. I don't know if you can see a return of some of the members of Congress walking in, your Republican colleagues, who could be in the room anyway. 47 of them are on these committees, able to go in and participate in depositions. And many of them, in fact, have participated in these depositions.
Right. Well, so I'm speaking for myself. I tried to go in last week as a member of the Judiciary Committee, and that's a reasonable thing to do. It was on September 12th that Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, said, I am hereby launching the impeachment inquiry, the impeachment investigation. So I think the bizarre element here is that you would exclude members of the committee that launched the impeachment inquiry from the factual development that Adam Schiff is trying to do in secret, aided by selective leaks and then misrepresentations about the whistleblower, his contact with the whistleblower, and the transcript from President Trump and President Zelensky. So I think that's why we were trying to get in there. But, like, I only speak for myself. I should be allowed in that room as a member of the Judiciary Committee, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, and they wouldn't let us in. And it begs the question, what are they hiding?
So you're speaking for yourself, so let's talk about that. You are member of Judiciary, member of Armed Services. As you know, none of those committees are the ones conducting these depositions. It's Intel, it's Foreign Affairs, it's Oversight.
I don't know that.
No, that is the fact. And the rules,
it's not a fact.
Say
go back and look at the December 12th hearing
of
of the Judiciary Committee, Hallie.
Sure.
Go back and look. You cannot misstate that as a fact. How can you tell me it's a fact that my committee's not involved when it was the committee chairman of the Judiciary Committee who launched the investigation?
Your committee has not subpoenaed these individuals to appear for the deposition.
That doesn't mean we're not involved in the impeachment inquiry. No, you're shifting ground now, right? First you say we're not involved, then you say we didn't issue the subpoenas. Those are two different things, and we are involved because our chairman launched the inquiry. That is a fact.
Sure, I want to let you have your say here, but I also want to find out why you think the rules do not apply to you as they're laid out. To you, Congressman Gaetz, why don't they apply to you?
Oh, I do think the rules apply to all of us, but the rules would typically require the Speaker of the House. I shouldn't say the rules. The precedent that was applied to President Clinton and President Nixon would necessitate some articulation of the rules so that we have an understanding of what the due process requirements will be. We see Democrats now sacrificing due process on the altar of their hatred for Donald Trump, and that should concern all Americans.
I'm not asking about precedent, though. I'm not asking about precedent, Congressman. I'm asking you about the rules.
Why? But
why do you think that you're above that?
Precedent informs
This is the whole point of why you stormed into the skiff yesterday.
It's not. I'm not above the rules, but when the Judiciary Committee chairman launches the inquiry, when the Speaker of the House won't adopt rules, then it creates an environment where the Democrats just sort of make it up as they go along. Let's kick some committees out, let some committees in, and it's all because they want to reshuffle the legislative deck because they're humiliated that they lost the Russia investigation unequivocally with the American people. Adam Schiff lied to the American people when he said he had more than circumstantial evidence that President Trump was engaged in a criminal conspiracy with Russia. And so this is a way to take some folks on the Judiciary Committee, like myself, like Andy Biggs, out of the next hand because we were effective at making the case that Democrats were overstating the facts.
You're very clear, Congressman, that you are unhappy with the process. And it should be noted that the Judiciary Committee has not actually subpoenaed these witnesses to be deposed. But I want to ask you not about the process, but about the substance of this, Congressman, because I actually haven't heard you say anything since Bill Taylor testified. Yes or no? Is it okay for any politician to trade military aid for political favors?
Look, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the Taylor deposition because I wasn't present for it.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking you, is it appropriate in any instance? Would you do that?
The lead into your question was, I want to talk about Bill Taylor's deposition. And so when we don't have the benefit of the cross-examination of the questions asked, I do not believe it would be appropriate for any politician to link military aid to assistance in a future election. No, and I also don't think that's what the president did. I think the president was right to follow up on the work of Bill Barr to try to identify the corrupt origins of the Russia investigation. It was a Ukrainian court that ruled that the Ukraine impermissibly interfered in the U.S. election. And that is a sufficient basis for the president to ask for cooperation with the Attorney General on that matter.
So a couple of things on that, and I'm going to ask my control room to give me a little bit more time with you, because, again, I want to make sure we get to foreign policy. But what you are saying is significant, not about the piece about Ukraine in 2016, because that is something that is not a proven theory, but specifically that you say...
It is a court order in the Ukraine.
No, I'm
but
sorry.
You just keep blowing through these things like they're facts, but they're not.
But you got to stay in the realm of facts here. And you just stated a fact, Congressman. I did not mischaracterize you. I want to be very clear. You just said it would not be appropriate for anybody to trade military aid for help in a future political election. Yeah. It appears from the testimony that we have seen reported publicly from the witnesses here,
from the selective leaks provided by Adam Schiff that aren't subject to cross-examination. No, see, like, you're playing the game here,
Do you dispute the facts?
You're playing the game where they selectively leak stuff that is not subject to cross-examination, rigorous review, check against documents and timelines. And by the way, when they had to do this in open in the Russia investigation with Mueller, with Lewandowski, Democrats looked terrible. And now they're trying to do things in secret so we can have interviews like this so that you can cherry pick elements of leaked testimony and then ask me about them when I wasn't in there. You didn't see the testimony. And more importantly, we're unable to see how those statements hold up against cross-examination. So the substance of this analysis is very difficult if we are not able to have some standardized due process that is predictable and provides clarity.
Did you get a chance to see Bill Taylor's opening statement that was released? Do you think he made that all up, those 15 pages?
I would love to have the chance to cross-examine Taylor on those claims or even to observe my colleagues cross-examining Taylor. But this is the new Adam Schiff strategy.
Your colleagues can cross-examine him. Your Republican colleagues have been in the room,
I don't have the benefit of those
Congressman.
Questions and answers. Right.
So you don't trust your Republicans on these committees?
No, I want to see the consequence of their work, right? Like, it's they put out their opening statement. We engage in cross-examination. You want to ask me about the opening, but I don't have the benefit of the cross-examination to be able to test the allegations made in the opening statement. And that is all by design. It is not an accident that you and I are here having this interview on terms that are very favorable to the Adam Schiff theory of the case, because when John Ratcliffe asks questions that I think poke holes in the allegations that Taylor made, we don't get the benefit of those. Because you know what? They weren't leaked and they weren't in front of the American people, and that's the problem.
It is Friday, the 25th of October of 2019, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. The French 77s have been virtually mixed, poured for your imbibing virtual pleasure, so please do. We're going to need it. And those of us who don't think that we should be needing a French 77, well, how about you just want one? Okay. Because after this what shall we call it? Performance? Was that performance art that Matt Gaetz was performing when he and his fellows, and they were fellows, stormed the skiff, and skiff boated the United States of America? Yeah, they touched on all the hot button issues too. Using cell phones in a secure location to order Papa John's Pizza and Chick-fil-A. You know, the companies that hate queers and anybody who's not a Christian. Anybody. Oh, and if you happen to be a person of color who's a Christian, you don't count either. We'll use your labor. We might even take your money. But do you think that you're really going to, well, be treated equally? You got another thing coming. Yeah, Matt Gaetz is upset. Very upset that the rules apply to him. Oh, I know he says that the rules apply to him, but he is an entitled white man, just as Jackie Speier intimated. Because there was a bunch of white men that walked into that skiff. By and large, they were all men. Very white, too, I must add. Very white. I know. This is the thing the left does, identity politics. And I just love it. We are accused of using identity politics. And what do they call us? Socialist, feminazi, liberals? We're going to, I don't know, poke out people's eyes in the middle of the night because we believe in identity politics. You know, you can't have identity politics without a dent somewhere in the body politic. I think that's what it is. They project constantly. And they will never publicly ascribe their faults that they ascribe to everybody else. That's not how it works. We are weak because we kick out our rapists and scofflaws. They advance them into this administration and put them into acting roles. Acting roles. Everything is acting now because you don't need Senate confirmation if you're only acting. This isn't a real government that's being run. It's an acting government because something else is going on. Court packing, maybe? Maybe, I don't know. Riches? What are riches? How about resources? Resources going out the door? What is the dictum? Property is always more valuable when delivered vacant to a hostile foreign power. Always more. If you can get those indigenous human scum out of that pond, well, then you've got a lot more valuable property because you don't have anyone or anything gumming up the machinery of the magic of the marketplace. And when you're a mobster, you set the market. Or else. I think that we are coming to a head here. We've got William Barr gallivanting all around the world to fix a lie. And now, Durham there running, I don't know, the semblance of some sort of rule of law, has brought a criminal charge against the investigators. Someone broke the law, and therefore everything, the Mueller report, all of that is out the window. All the people that went to jail served their time and have now been released. All of that does not matter because Bill Barr and Durham probably found someone who had sex and lied about it. You know where this is going. You think Strzok and his lover Lisa Page are the only ones who are going to be vilified for having sex by a Donald Trump? Of all people? Corruption. He's only cares about corruption. Yeah, the kind that he can get away with. And anybody who gets in the way of his corruption because he cares so much about it is going to be out. Now think about it. Everybody who was an expert in this country at a high level and then down through layers of departments, experts in Russian intelligence, counterespionage, investigations, bringing Russian mobsters to court and convicting them, they are now all out of a job. How is that possible? A purge occurred in this United States. And all paths lead to Russia. Oh, and yeah, Hillary is still batting 1,000% because Tulsi's now going to be a third-party candidate because she's being groomed to be. But how dare Hillary bring it up? Oh, she's the cause of everything, her warmongering. Tulsi's good. She's really good. She's able to do this Vlad KSB gaslighting BS. Because there's one segment in our body politic that will fall for this, and they already have. For some odd reason, Hillary Clinton is running the wars around the world in the minds of the deplorables. Well, aren't they? We, after all of us are human scum in the human scum pond now. All of us. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, speaking of human scum, the Secret Service interviewed Eminem about his anti-Trump lyrics after a TrumpBro on TMZ called them up. Criminal arrests of border agents have surged amid the aggressive hiring practices ordered by Trump. And the right-wing dark money group Club for Growth accused House Democrats of planning to cancel the 2020 election. Sounds to me like the Club of Growth needs some money. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Russian state atomic company Rosatom signed a deal with Rwanda to build a center of nuclear science and technologies. They're just trolling us now, rubbing our faces in it. And Russian spy Maria Butina has been released from prison after serving an 18-month sentence and will arrive in Moscow tomorrow, Saturday. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the rightish of the page is our chat room link, deftly located by superior graphic design by Tom. Thank you, Tom. Right there by the social media scroll, and Kelly Lincoln monitors the chat room link, and thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, also deftly placed by superior graphic design, is our link to our Patreon page. And all kidding aside, do please become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. A small recurring contribution, like how about the cost of an espresso type coffee drink sent our way once a month, helps us truly mitigate these bills. Even just making a dent in the ISP bill that comes once a month so helps us out. We've been doing this, Resistance Radio, but also stretching dollars for over 8 years now, and we wouldn't be able to do any of it without your generosity, and we thank you tremendously for that. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, it is so simple. Just go to @NetrootsRadio. Tom takes care of that as well. Thank you, Tom. I, of course, take care of @Justice Putnam, because who else would? And I also post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime, and then link that up on social media for your social media linkage pleasure. Follow the show on Twitter @CookbookWest, and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Is iTunes going to still exist anymore? I don't know. That's up in the air. But, Apple Podcasts, and really wherever podcasts can be found. Well, before we get into these offerings here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, by the way, I just want to make one more comment about Build Bar in Durham and what they are doing. Because this is the tried and true method that Vlad used. Not only is there a purge of all experts Russia in the criminal division of the DOJ and all other departments and parts of our body politic, the ship of state, shall we say, is that putting the investigators on trial for investigating their dear leader. And that is what is happening. And apparently, none of us was aware, once again, of that little-known OLC memo that said that if a sitting president is caught selling out America, he's able to prosecute and draw indictments against the cops who busted him. That's what this is all about. And apparently Bill Barr is just the man to help out. And he is. All right. Speaking of being helped out. Yeah. Let's go after his enemies. And how do they do that? Well, if there's a well-known artist who happens to not like Trump and makes it very well known, you might get yourself a little visit by the Secret Service. Jason Leopold of BuzzFeed News brings this offering here in the Bistro Cafe. In August of 2018, Eminem announced the surprise release of his new album, Kamikaze, delighting his fans with 13 fiery new raps just 8 months after he dropped his last album, Revival. Kamikaze's lead track, The Ringer, immediately attracted attention on social media due to the lyrics in which Eminem, a fierce critic of Donald Trump, claimed he was visited by the Secret Service. Because Agent Orange just sent in the Secret Service to meet in person to see what... I'm sorry, I'm going to have to start over. I have to get into the beat, and I'm not. Because Agent Orange just sent in the Secret Service to meet in person to see if I really think of hurting him, or ask if I'm linked to terrorists. I said, only when it comes to ink and lyricists. Oh, okay. At that time, the Secret Service refused to say whether agents had indeed visited Eminem citing their policy of not commenting on or confirming the absence or existence of specific investigations. So last year, BuzzFeed News filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Secret Service to find out if agents really were sent to speak with Eminem. This week, the agency turned over 40 pages of documents that prove they did, in fact, interview the rapper. It turns out their interest in speaking with him was based on threatening lyrics from his rap Framed that appeared on Revival. The Secret Service characterized Eminem as exhibiting inappropriate behavior and noted that he, via the rap, threatens protectee. Really now? According to the documents, on December 15th of 2017, the day Revival was released, a concerned citizen reported Marshall Mathers, the rapper Eminem, had a new song called Framed, with an inappropriate comment towards Donald Trump and a threatening comment towards Ivanka Trump. A concerned citizen. Who might that be? Oh, it was a TrumpBro at TMZ, an employee, according to the documents. They sent the Secret Service an email with a link to an article in The Hill about this song. I want to know if your agency is investigating Eminem for his threatening lyrics about first daughter Ivanka Trump, the person wrote. It appears the TMZ employee was seeking comment from the Secret Service. The documents do not reveal the agency received correspondence from any other individual about the song. Hours before the email was sent, TMZ had published a story about Eminem's lyrics criticizing Trump. TMZ did not respond to a request for comment for this story because TMZ does what TMZ is. The Secret Service investigative documents, which are heavily redacted, go on to say the song was about a murder that he could remember and must be framed with the specific lyrics. Donald ducks on as the Tonka truck in the yard, but dog, how the fuck is Ivanka Trump in the trunk of my car? Because I feel somewhat responsible for the dumb little blonde girl, that motherfucking baton twirler that got dumped in the pond, second murder with no recollection of it. The documents also note this is not the first time Mathers made threatening comments toward POTUS and his family. In June of 2017, Mathers freestyled comments that were threatening in nature towards POTUS. Included as background evidence to support Eminem's hatred of Trump was a December 18th, 2017 interview in Vulture with the rapper in which he said, "Trump makes my blood boil." So much for First Amendment and having an opinion in this country now. The Secret Service documents show the agency's Protective Intelligence and Assessment Division conducted a background check on Eminem and started to arrange an interview with the rapper through his attorneys on December 20th of 2017. Merry Savage Christmas. The interview took place a month later on the afternoon of January 16th, 2018 with Eminem and his legal team. 2 pages of documents summarizing the discussion were entirely redacted, but show that it was centered around Eminem's BET freestyle rap and the lyrics in Framed and Like Home, another track off of Revival that features Alicia Keys. I'll bet she was interviewed too. During the interview with the Secret Service, when agents began to read the lyrics of his freestyle rap, Mathers was familiar with the song and began to rap along with the interviewers as the verse was read. According to the documents, the agents questioned Eminem about fan mail that may include threats or unusual interested items due to his songs. At the conclusion of the interview, agents again offered to answer any questions. It was also explained that any additional questions about this investigation should be directed to the United States Secret Service Office of Government and Public Affairs. Counsel then escorted agents from Mathers' office, the documents say. The interview was discussed 2 days later at a Secret Service meeting. The documents say it was determined that the case will be non-referred to a federal prosecutor. But elsewhere in the documents, which referred to the rapper throughout by his real name, Marshall Mathers, there is a section that lists his aliases, Eminem and Slim Shady. Dan Desai Martin of Share Blue Media brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. You know, I often chuckle when people seem shocked that a lawless president who is tasked with deconstructing the administrative state would hire a bunch of lawless cops. Why would that be shocking? That is what is done. Well, criminal activity among Customs and Border Protection agents has spiked in recent years, according to an internal government document obtained by Gaetz. The level of criminality reached a 5-year high. Get this. There were 268 Customs and Border Patrol agents arrested during fiscal year 2018 alone. 268 cops were busted for criminal behavior, criminal stuff. My God. I want to know how that lines up with, say, I don't know, any place. How about General Motors? Any company in General Motors. Or any division. Just a division in General Motors. What is the ratio of criminal activity from people? Or, of course, this is worse. Under color of the badge. And that was, which ended on September 30th. 268 by September 30th of 2018. However, some employees were arrested multiple times, including one Border Patrol agent who racked up 2 DUIs in a single week, and another who was arrested 5 times over the course of the year. So I guess what they're saying is not actually 268. Maybe that is. Or no. I think what they're implying, of the 268 agents who were arrested, that also counts the guy who was arrested 5 times. One guy. Drug and alcohol-related misconduct topped the list of offenses with 129 arrests. Gee, I'm shocked. Cops getting all drugged up and liquored up and having parties and shooting each other at a party. I've never seen that before. I have. Don't party with cops. I swear to God, I learned my lesson. It wasn't like I went once. Okay, I went a few times. Let's just say a few times. But in that 2 or 3 times that I went, in my anecdotal experience, it was enough. Those people are, you don't want to be around them. Only bad comes out of it. Only bad. The 57 arrests for domestic violence marked a 10.5% increase from the previous year because you got a pussy grabber in the Oval Office, so it's all okay. 15 arrests for crimes involving children included 6 arrests related to child pornography. Cops. Overall, the number of arrests of Customs and Border Patrol employees rose by 11% between 2017 and 2018 because they had to get used to the guy running the show. The spike in criminal behavior may be related to an order by Trump who demanded the agency hire thousands more Border Patrol agents in January of 2017. James Tomchek CBP's chief of internal affairs from 2006 to 2014 said there was a clear relationship between criminal activity and a rush to hire more agents. Similar spikes in wrongdoing happened when G.W. Bush demanded an 8,000-person increase in border agents in 2006. At that time, Border Patrol agents reduced training for new agents and at times did not bother to even perform background checks. This time around, the Border Patrol insists it is doing things differently. Really, differently. And how is that? Well, they say applicants must still pass a polygraph examination, strenuous vetting checks, and the highest level of background investigation available. Oh, but you didn't catch the child pornography before they became cops? When the child pornography, in some cases, had been there before they became cops, and then was only added to after. Interesting. Very strenuous background checks. Then they summarized their statement with, in addition to still undergoing basic training at our top-notch academies, we are confident that our recruiting and hiring processes are exceptionally strong. Well, how about mightily? I like mightily strong. Also of Share Blue Media, brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Club for Growth, a dark money conservative group, launched a series of 4 ads attacking Democratic Congresswomen. I'm shocked. The ads, ostensibly urging them to oppose impeachment, accuses them and other House Democrats of scheming to nullify the 2016 election and cancel the next one. Well, excuse me, I think the 2016 election was nullified by Trump being installed by a hostile foreign power, and the only people talking about not having a 2020 election is Donald Trump because he wants to remain leader forever, because as soon as he's not, he hears that sound in Law and Order. The spots target first-term Representatives Katie Porter, Democrat of California, because, you know what? She took classes from Elizabeth Warren. And isn't she a great investigator and questioner in these panels? Yes, she is. Abigail Spanberger, a Democrat of Virginia, Quatil Torres Small, a Democrat of New Mexico, and Lauren Underwood, Democrat of Illinois, and accuses them of having abandoned their alleged campaign promises of moderation, independence, and results. What are their sins? Being part of the Democratic Party first, which is considering impeaching Trump. The ads provide no citations to indicate when they promised those things or what they did to contradict it, because that's how the right wing works. Say something, and then have somebody else say it. Next thing you know, it's truth and precedent. Why won't you answer the question? These days, it's all about impeachment all the time. One party pushing for power by any means necessary. Nullify the last election. Cancel the next one. The ad claims, again, with no evidence. While the ads show no footage of any of the 4 congresswomen advocating for anything of the kind, it does contain a misleading clip of Representative Al Green, Democrat of Texas, because he's black. saying if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected. Now, in real life, Green said, I am concerned if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected. If we don't impeach him, he will say he's been vindicated. He will say the Democrats had an overwhelming majority in the House and did not take up impeachment. He will say we have a constitutional duty to do it if it was there and we didn't. He will say he's been vindicated. See? The ad also repeatedly features an image of Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and of course Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, even though none of them are mentioned in the ad because those are the triggered images that have been pretty much brainwashed right into the deplorables' brains so that the lizard part will tickle and they jerk and they convulse and they want to lock them all up. And of course, while you're convulsing and jerking and wanting to chant lock her up, do send some money to the Club for Growth. All right, we better get to our break. Boy, we really better. And when we come back from that break, we are going to go through weather from around the world and finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, Tropey Dearest. So, in Judy, director Rupert Gould has gotten together with screenwriter Tom Edge and, bound to win some award for her performance, Renee Zellweger, and they have all made an adaptation of Peter Quilter's much-lauded musical drama, End of the Rainbow. And I'm shocked that Judy is a British film based on a British play by a British playwright because it seems tailor-made for Hollywood's sensibilities. Let me tell you. Judy focuses on Judy Garland right before her death, when years of professional instability have made one of the screen's biggest stars almost unhireable. So Judy must leave her children to take a cabaret engagement in London so she can make enough money to take care of said children. And so the kernel of this movie is the story that we've been fed over and over and over and over again, the family in jeopardy. And Quilter could have centered his play on something else. It could have been about an aged performer who still has talent but finds her material and history not connecting with a new younger audience. It could have been about how Garland drew people to her who profited off her talent while they drained her. It could have been a study of the cost of the great urge that drives a great performer to perform. It could have been about the relationship between artist and audience, which at one moment can be loving and inspirational, and then the next moment can be dismissive and abusive. It could have been about the construction of a gay male icon. It could have been about how the tragedy of someone who was thrown into an unrelentingly public life at an early age suffered greatly for failing to make a private life for herself. Judy touches on all these aspects of Garland's life, but at its core is one of the few roles where it's safe for women to be extraordinary. Supermom fighting for her children. And like I said, everybody does it well. I just wish they'd been as ambitious about their chosen theme as they were in executing the theme they chose. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Suzanne Bard. Most migratory birds spend their winters in one habitat and then fly to a new area in the springtime to breed. They'll raise one or more broods of young there. Then, come fall, they begin the trip back to their wintering grounds. But a new study suggests the phainopepla, a jet black bird with a body type like a small cardinal, may have a different strategy.
They might be itinerant breeders. So they breed once in one area, then they migrate, they go somewhere else, and they breed a second time in that new area.
State University of New York, Oswego, evolutionary biologist Daniel Baldassari. For the phainopepla, that means nesting in the desert Southwest during the springtime before flying to the oak woodlands of the California coast for the summer. Baldessari says birdwatchers have long suspected that phainopeplas are itinerant breeders. One hint that the same birds might be breeding in two different habitats was their vocal behavior. The pointy-headed songbirds are talented mimics, often copying the vocalizations of other bird species.
If you look at desert birds, they actually can mimic some species that you don't find in the desert, bird species that you would only find out in these woodland habitats.
And the reverse is also true. Phainopeplas in woodland habitats will mimic species that are only found in the desert. But to confirm that individual phainopeplas really do spend the breeding season in two different places, Baldessari and his team outfitted the birds with tiny GPS transmitters and tracked their movements.
They all left those desert breeding habitats, migrated out to these coastal woodland habitats, and stayed in a small kind of territory for basically the duration of summer, when we know that phainopeplas are breeding in these woodland areas.
The researchers also found that both populations were very similar genetically, suggesting that they're all members of the same gene pool. The study appears in the journal The Auk. Baldessari says itinerant breeding has only been documented in two other bird species to date, and is most likely an adaptation to unpredictable sources of food.
And that food supply disappears, and so the birds literally have to physically move to follow the food.
Such behavioral flexibility seems to be unusual, Baldessari notes. Phainopeplas could thus be especially resilient in the face of climate change, a challenge other species may not be able to meet. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Suzanne Bard.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
Can gangs run prisons? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. Let's consider private prison companies, the three largest being CoreCivic, Geo Group, and the Management and Training Corporation, MTC for short. MTC's Wilkinson County, Mississippi facility, a maximum security prison, was the subject of an October 2019 expose in Prison Legal News. The article says that 80% of the 900 prisoners in this Mississippi max run by MTC are gang affiliated. 80%! And that weapons assaults and stabbings are all too common. Part of the reason? The prison has been paying guards, remember this is a for-profit corporation, just over the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, and not surprisingly, the annual staff turnover rate has been close to 90%, with as many as one-third of the 241 positions vacant. The company, MTC, says it's inaccurate to say that gangs have run the prison, but a recent independent audit, quote, noted that gang leaders decided which prisoners got jobs and perks, and further found that the warden speaks with gang lords' leaders and asks them to control their men. It ain't right, but it's the truth, the report quotes the now former warden as having said. The company insists it's making improvements. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU, because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2002. That was the day that working people of the United States lost one of their greatest champions in Washington. Two-term Minnesota Senator Paul Wellstone died tragically in a plane crash. The crash took place just 11 days before Election Day. Wellstone was running for his third term in office. His wife, daughter, 3 aides, and 2 pilots also died in the crash. Wellstone was known for fighting for those who didn't have a voice in the halls of power. The poor, the workers, the farmers, the seniors. He once famously said, "I'm here to represent the little fellers, not the Rockefellers." The most impactful legislation the senator passed was the Paul Wellstone Mental Health and Addiction Equality Act of 2007. It required insurance providers to treat mental health at the same level that they would provide for physical health care. When he died, the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America remembered Wellstone as the strongest voice for America's working families in the United States Senate. AFSCME Local 34 wrote, "He was the best friend that AFSCME had in the U.S. Senate and supported us and the issues that affected working families." At a 10-year commemoration of his death, Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton called Wellstone the conscience of the Senate. In January, the AFL-CIO established the Wellstone Award. The award honors elected leaders who take a strong stand for workers' freedom to come together in unions and who fight for social and economic justice. Wellstone once said, "Politics is not about power. Politics is not about money. Politics is not about winning for the sake of winning. Politics is about the improvement of people's lives." We could sure use more senators like Paul Wellstone today. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 44 degrees Fahrenheit. We're supposed to be a tad warmer today, mid to upper 70s. Fancy that. Overnight lows will be in the low to mid 40s tonight. And then tomorrow, we're expecting a bit of a drop in temperature. Only a high of about 60 to 62 with overnight lows in the upper 30s. Uh-oh. We are in fall. Ragweed pollen is, abundant sunshine today, some clouds overnight, and mainly sunny skies tomorrow and through the weekend. And winds will remain light and variable, though tomorrow they are going to pick up out of the north at 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's why the cold air will be dropping temperatures. Okay, let's see. All right, ragweed pollen is moderate. The air quality index is good at 28 parts per million, and that daytime UV index is in the moderate range at 3. Barometric pressure is rising at 30.2 inches. Visibility is at 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 72%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. That's my P-tape. All right, I don't deny it one bit. London is 61 degrees and cloudy. Paris, 63 and cloudy. Rome is 76 and fair. Kiev, 51 with fog. Kabul is 58 degrees and fair. Hong Kong is 76 and fair. Tokyo, 62 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 77 and partly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 63 and sunny with a lot of smoke from some fires that shouldn't be burning right now. And New York, New York is 58 degrees Fahrenheit and fair. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. worker bees at Reuters bring us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and why wouldn't they be anonymous? Yeah, when Vlad's involved, it's better to not ever put your head up. Please. Something convenient might happen. Very convenient. Russian state atomic company Rosatom has signed a deal with Rwanda to build a center of nuclear science and technologies as it seeks to expand in Africa. The center would carry out scientific research and practical application of nuclear technologies, allowing production of radioisotopes for wider use in agriculture and other areas. Build it up, then blow it up? What would those other areas be? The center will also have a research water-cooled reactor with up to 10 megawatts of capacity. The deal, as Rosatom hopes, would allow in the future to supply Rwanda with small, modular reactors for power generation and maybe plutonium production, and everybody can have a nuke now. In a separate statement on yesterday, Rosatom said it has agreed with Ethiopia to cooperate in developing its nuclear infrastructure. Rosatom is also in talks with South Africa on building more nuke reactors there. But President Cyril Ramaphosa put nuclear expansion plans on hold because someone has to be the adult in the room.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Sarah Ann Lynch of Reuters brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Convicted Russian agent Maria Butina is set to be released from a Florida prison today after serving most of her 18-month sentence for conspiring to influence U.S. conservative activists and infiltrate the National Rifle Association, and is expected to be quickly deported to her native country. Butina, 31, had been scheduled for release from a low-security prison in Tallahassee in early November, but a change in federal law moved up her release date based on credit for good behavior. She is expected to be taken into custody by U.S. immigration authorities immediately after being released and be deported. Russian President Vladimir Putin has previously expressed outrage over Butina's prison sentence and said she did not carry out any orders from Russian security services, only the mobster ones. Butina, a former graduate student at American University in Washington who publicly advocated for gun rights, pleaded guilty in December to one count of conspiring to act as a foreign agent and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. Really now, did she? So, is she going to be greeted and feted as a hero? Or will she go the way of all the other convenient happenings? All right, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know that Netroots Radio is going to keep broadcasting on all day and all through the weekend. And we're going to meet up on Monday for River City Hash Mondays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here on Monday, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.